at peace, stress free, let it be.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name's Ashley and today we are going to be cooking, but we're not going to be cooking food for us. I mean, I guess you could eat it, but we're actually going to be making food for my dog. This is my dog, Noodle. Noodle, say hello to the people. Noodle is very, very spoiled, and so I make her food from scratch with some of the best ingredients that Whole Foods has to offer. So it is a long process, but the amount of food that I make usually lasts about 3 weeks. I did have to do a lot of math and researching to come up with this recipe that I make, but we've been making it for a few months now and she really likes it. Initially we were feeding her one of those frozen wet food companies that's homemade kind of, but it's not, it's a company, and we had a pretty bad experience with that, so we switched to another one, and the other one just made her gain a ton of weight, and so we decided to switch to a homemade meal just so that we know what's going in it, where it's made, all that kind of stuff, just kind of peace of mind. It actually costs about the same, and again, it does take a little bit of time. It takes about 5 hours every 3 weeks, but it's worth it for the peace of mind that comes along with it. I also thought that homemade food was a really good idea because I can kind of tailor it to her needs and things that she likes as well. So if you want to see how I make my dog Noodle's food, keep watching this video. This is going to take a really long time to do, so let's get it started. We do get most of the ingredients from Whole Foods, and we try to keep it as low waste as possible by using these reusable produce bags, which I mentioned in my 20 zero waste stops that I made in 2020 video. If you want to go watch that, it'll be linked right here. So we get most of the vegetables and stuff from the produce area. Some of it does come wrapped in plastic though, like the green beans are usually in plastic, but sometimes they'll have a paper bag with a bunch of green beans in it, so if they have that, we'll get that. And usually they have the full carrots, but they didn't have those today when we went, so we had to get some baby carrots in a plastic bag. But I do prefer getting them in these produce bags with the loose produce that's out there, because then we can get it to the perfect weight and reduce the amount of food waste that we create. And I also have a scale because I make 2 different foods. So one is going to be chicken and one is going to be turkey, and they both have some of the same ingredients and some different ingredients. So I have 2 different ones, and I also have a scale to make sure that I am keeping everything as it needs to be, the weight that it needs to be. You get it. I would like to start with the broccoli first, so that is going to be what we're gonna start with. Oh, also, let me plug one more of my videos real quick before we get into it. If you haven't seen any of my RFID videos, then you wouldn't know, but I have an eating disorder called avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. Basically, as part of that eating disorder, I don't eat any vegetables. I have extreme reactions to eating vegetables, and prior to making my dog's food, I actually had these reactions just to touching vegetables. So with the broccoli specifically, look at me, I'm touching the broccoli. I would not be able to do this. A few months ago, I was unable to touch broccoli, which sounds ridiculous, I know. But yeah, making my dog's food is one thing that has really helped me with my RFID. I actually have a video where I talk about a kind of funny but kind of serious experience that I've had with broccoli. I will have that linked right here. And yeah, I don't know, it just made me think of that. Okay, let's get started. Most importantly, we have to wash our vegetables, especially the ones that aren't in a bag. I also keep Doodle's recipe for her food right here on the fridge so that I can always refer back to it, and it's easily accessible. And I'm just gonna cut it in kind of big chunks because I have a thing that breaks everything down really easily, so it doesn't really need to be that small, but I do cut it just to make its job a little bit easier. Then I put 14 ounces of mushrooms in each of them. I know mushrooms are kind of controversial to put in dog food, but I did a fair amount of research and found that they're actually really good for dogs with allergies. Now my dog does have allergies, and I feel since we've been giving her the mushrooms, they've gotten better. But basically everything I've read said there's no harm of these white button mushrooms as long as they're store-bought and also cleaned, obviously. Okay, so my camera battery died, but I figured I would bring you over here so that you can actually see what I'm doing. So I hope you all enjoy this angle. For ones that look like this at the bottom where it's clearly really dirty, I usually just cut that little piece off. I'm sure it's just dirt and it would probably come off when I boil it, which I'm going to do after this, but who knows. And the final thing that goes in both of these is 14 ounces of green beans. And then for these, I don't cut them, I just break them in half and throw them in. Okay, that's it for the vegetables that go in both of them. Let's say this one's gonna be the chicken one, so we have to add carrots into it. And then the final thing we need for the chicken one is spinach, which is very, very wet, but I have to wash it off still. And cut all of these things at the bottom off. And this is actually a little bit more spinach than we actually need. I'm not gonna weigh it because I did weigh it at the store. Obviously it weighs a lot less because I cut all of that off, but it still is a little bit more than we need. I'm just gonna use all of it because a little extra spinach won't hurt. And also it's really hard to store in the freezer. So like with the leftover carrots and green beans, I can store those in the freezer and they'll be fine. But the spinach just gets all like soggy in the freezer and it's not a fun time when I have to use it again. So now that our first pot has all the veggies that we need in it, we're gonna fill it up with some water. And then I have it filled up to about here with water. And then we're gonna place it on my very dirty stove to boil. So I'm just gonna put it on like medium heat and then put the lid on top so that it can steam all of the vegetables in there / boil them, I don't really know. And then while that's going, we are going to work on the rest of the vegetables for the other pot. Next, we're going to wash and cut up some celery. And then we're gonna cut off this bottom part because I don't think she's supposed to eat that. I don't know actually. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to eat that. And then we're gonna add some cucumber. When I buy it, I always like to get a little bit extra and give some to Noodle as a little treat because she really, really loves cucumber. And I'm just gonna cut the ends off because, I don't know, I feel like those aren't good for some reason. And finally for this one, we are going to add a little bit of apple. And same as the other one, we're going to fill it up with water, again up to about here. Then we are also going to put it on the stove to boil / steam. Now while we wait for that to boil, I just cut up the little piece of cucumber and I'm going to give it to Noodle. I'm gonna show you some tricks that Noodle knows because why not? It's a video about dog food, might as well show my dog. Good girl, mama, sit. Say hi. Good girl. Paw. Good girl. Other paw. Good girl. Okay, you gotta do 2 for this one. Hold on. Wait. Noodle, listen, listen, listen. Hey. Wait. Wait. Speak. Noodle. Dinosaur. Good girl. Good girl. Sit. Speak. Good. I'll give it to you. You're trying. Good girl. That was a lot of work, huh? Okay, so this one's done. This one we're gonna leave for a little bit longer, but this one is definitely done cooking. Cooking, boiling, steaming, whatever it's doing. So we're gonna take this steamer strainer type thing that I have. I'm going to take the one that's done, actually take the lid off because there's a lot of steam. Then we're just going to strain all of the water out. And then once we have all the water out, we are just going to put it back. Oh, all the water is not out. Dump it back in here. Then I'm gonna add in 6 ounces of blueberries real quick. So these are just some leftover blueberries that I had in the freezer. And then I also got some new blueberries. I'm just going to rinse these off and then put them in here without the water, obviously. And now by the time we've done that, our second one is done boiling. So we're gonna do the same thing, strain it and then move it over to the side. And then to the second one, we're actually gonna be adding blackberries. So those are gonna sit over there for a little bit and we're gonna get to cooking the meat and the eggs. This is the chicken and this is the turkey. Ideally I would wanna get the ground chicken and the ground turkey from like the butcher area that Whole Foods has just to reduce the waste a little bit, but a lot of times they don't have it, so this is our next option. And because my dog was really overweight and still is kind of overweight, we're not entirely sure to be honest, but just in her best interest, we don't want her to have a lot of fat. So like the chicken is 99% lean and the turkey is 98% lean. Only 2% fat and 1% fat. Sometimes if they don't have one or the other, we'll also try it out for ground beef, which that we do get from the butcher. All right, let's cook our meat. In the chicken, there's a ton of juice and I want as little of that as possible. So I'm just going to strain that out. And I actually saw this on TikTok as like a really bad like healthy cooking instruction thing, but I'm going to wash the chicken. Then I'm going to throw this in. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the turkey. And then just using the same pan so that we don't have a million dishes at the end, we are going to crack 6 eggs, scramble them, put them in one pot, and then crack the other 6 eggs, scramble them, and put them in the other pot. To scramble them, I don't add any like milk or spices or anything, literally just to the eggs. This is a non-stick pan, so they don't really get stuck to the bottom. And she just doesn't need all that extra stuff, just the eggs is more than enough. And then with the leftover eggshells, I actually save them and put them in the fridge to dry out, because once they're dried out, I grind them up to make them into eggshell powder, which looks like this. And then I put a ½ teaspoon in Noodles food every morning for an extra source of calcium. And then I'm gonna use this Ninja food processor to break it all into really, really small pieces, basically mush it into a puree. That's the setting I'm gonna be using on it. I love this thing. It shaved like an hour and a half off of my time making her food. So I'm obsessed with it. It's so simple. It's really easy to clean. Yeah, this has been a lifesaver. Well, like an hour and a half saver, but basically a lifesaver. And then while I'm doing that, I'm also gonna get the rice ready because it does take a little bit to cook. So I'm going to have that on the stove while I'm food processing her other food. This rice is from a zero waste store called Tear, so that helps in making her food really low waste. When I'm putting them in the food processor, I try to get the bigger pieces at the bottom just so that it can blend them and it's closer to the blades. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but I feel like it makes a difference, so that's just what I do. And in just a few seconds, it's all broken into little pieces. And then I'm just gonna dump this pot of all the blended food back into the big pot because we're gonna mix in some stuff after. This is Noodle throwing a tantrum because I wouldn't give her a piece of food. Hi. Okay, now the rice is done. I put a little bit too much water though, so I have to drain the water out. And I'm gonna have my boyfriend help me because I don't know, it's just really hard for me to do by myself. Look at that. It was messy even with help. And then we're just going to throw that into the turkey one. We're gonna use the same pan and make some oatmeal for the other meal. These oats are also from the zero waste store. So for the carbs, I like to keep them kind of healthy to give her energy because she does need carbs, but I don't want to use them as a filler, so I try not to use too much of them. But when I do use carbs, I also try to do like healthy ones. So like rolled oats and brown rice are better than quick oats and white rice. Yeah, that's just what I do for her carbs in her food. Thankfully the oatmeal cooks a lot faster, so we're gonna dump that into the chicken pot. If anyone has any tips on how to make oatmeal less sticky, it would be really helpful and I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Please leave it down below. For the chicken one, I like to add 2 sheets of seaweed for some omega-3s. Have it in sheets. These are just like seaweeds to make sushi, but I just crumble it up and throw it in there. As an extra source of omega-3s and so that she's not just getting omega-3 when she's eating the chicken one, we also use this supplement. It's the grizzly salmon oil and it's a really good source of omega-3s for her. Omega-3s are super important for dogs, so this is a really important supplement that we give her along with the eggshells for calcium. And then for the turkey one, I'm going to add 3½ teaspoons of turmeric to help work as an anti-inflammatory. And turmeric in small doses is just really healthy for people and for dogs. So now that both of those have all the ingredients that they need, I'm going to mix them up and then let them cool down a little bit, and then I'm gonna put them in the containers so that I can put them in the freezer. Mixing it is always really difficult for me for some reason because it feels so like heavy, especially the one with oatmeal because the oatmeal is so sticky. Then my boyfriend washes the dishes. I make the food and he washes the dishes. That's the agreement. So that is is it for this video, how I make my dog's homemade low waste food. Although making her food is a lot of work and it took a lot of preparation to figure out like how many calories she should be eating and measuring all the calories of the food and the weight of the food that she's eating and all that stuff, it definitely feels worth it because I have peace of mind knowing where her food comes from, knowing where it's made, knowing what goes in it. I can also tailor it to her needs and things that she likes. And one of my favorite things about it is that I can make it low waste, because that's something that was really bothering me with other foods that she was eating, was it was producing so much plastic waste. So I really like that with making her food, I can reduce a bunch of plastic. And even after COVID, once things like farmers markets open back up, I can go and get produce from there that also comes with no packaging to replace the things in the recipe that do have packaging. The last thing that I love about making Noodle's food from scratch is how much she loves it. As I said before, we tried 2 different frozen fresh companies and neither of them really worked out. And she didn't really like them as much. She did like them obviously because she just loves eating. Seriously, she eats like a lot. And I never really saw her get excited when it was time to eat, but now when we say, do you want to eat? She gets really excited and she runs over and just waits for us to make her food, which makes me feel so good that she likes it so much and just makes the whole like 5 hours that I spend doing it worth it. So thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up down below so that I know. And also, I would really love if you subscribed, and if you do subscribe, you can see more of Noodle. I hope this video could be informative or at least entertaining for you to watch. Maybe it could even inspire you to make your own dog food, who knows. But thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.